because I was waiting for the cake. I didn't care about anything else. I wanted cake. And then so the cake finally come out, and I just chucked a massive wobbly.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It is time for another episode of the Vibe Union podcast, episode 27. We're making it up as we go. You know what's up. I'm Emkew. This is Rhath. Hey! This is Jason.
Hello.
And we are here from Vibe Union. Before we get anything rolling, of course, we are meeting, playing, loving, and living on the stolen land of the Wurundjeri people, also the Boomerang people, the Woiwurrung people here in lovely Travancore. It is the land of the people of the Kulin Nation. Sovereignty was never ceded, and it is important to recognize that. Thank you, as always, for joining us in that recognition, that acknowledgement, and the respect that we would like to extend to Indigenous elders past, present, and emerging. And we hope for a harmonious future that we can all share in together. Guys, there's a lot been going on. We've got a lot of events. We've been putting on a lot of different things, different nights. And, you know, I think the three of us are pretty well poised to talk about ad nauseum the kind of stuff that we've been putting on. But I do want to kind of take it all the way back in terms of the events that kind of shaped us. And I want to understand, like, what are the things that we've each seen, that we've been to, that we've been privy to, and, like, you know, from pure consumer, just watching the spectacle, all the way to, like, being a part of the organizing committee and making it happen. What are the events that you've seen that you really enjoyed, and what inspiration did you take from them, and what can the people listening and watching really take away and put into their own events?
Well, nothing off the top. Come back to me. What one have you got?
I was trying to think. I didn't go to a lot of events.
Oh, yeah. Not a lot going on in Tassie?
Yeah, that's a given. I think I remember going to an Angus and Julia Stone concert.
Oh, yeah?
That's very awkward because you can't do anything. You just stand there and listen because it's not hyped. And I just had a woman behind me, very angry because she stood behind a tall person. And I'm like, I was here before you, and then she was so fucking tall. I can't even fucking see anything. I'm like, you could choose anywhere else in this warehouse, and you chose to stand behind me. And so we're all sort of just standing there, kind of swaying, trying to like.
Right.
It was good fun, but I was like, okay. I don't know. I guess if you go through poetry stuff, I don't think I've told everyone because I tell people everything more than once. My first poetry thing I ever went to and performed, I was miserable at it. It was terrible. Like, you know, shaking, spoke too fast, didn't really know what it was. And then, got better from there. I was like, okay, well, I don't want to feel like this when I'm doing poetry. So I just worked on that. And then I think actually starting with Vibe Union and doing my own gigs and coming to see everyone, and sort of getting to know more about the hip hop scene, because I said I talk to you guys, talk to Vibe Union about everything, because I don't know. I remember when I first joined Vibe Union, you asked me if I wanted to help, like, find venue, like promote stuff with. I'm like, I don't know where to go, and if they ask me one question, I go, I don't know. I'm like, well, it just ruins the whole reputation.
Hold, please.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just going to put all the work onto to someone else. So I think for me is seeing, but seeing a ton of performers come through, like Lyrebird and stuff, and just the changing dichotomy that is always always around. Vibe Union, so cool.
I can't really say specifically one gig, I think, off the top of my head, but I grew up in regional Victoria, in a pretty artsy town, bit of a hippie town. There was a lot of live music, and I spent a lot of time as a kid hanging out the back of pubs when pub garden gigs was a huge thing. That was like every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there was stuff happening. So hanging out there and seeing a lot of folk and a lot of blues and stuff like that. And I just remember the level of community and the level of intimacy that was so present in those, especially in that time period, this was this was like 20 years ago now, because I was a kid. I was like 7 years old at the time. And my parents were playing, but like everyone knew everyone and everyone felt comfortable. And so there was less of a barrier between the performers and the audience. It all just felt like a really communal space. And then the other one that comes to mind is the polar opposite of that, which was seeing, I was going to say Green Day, but I'm going to steal yours. Seeing Muse. Seeing Muse in concert. I won't say too much about it, except just like seeing the arena style gig done right. Like if you have an arena, you can't have that intimacy. No. And so you have to go well over the top. It is a spectacle, it is a show. And however, those two have inspired me in such different ways now, and I want to find the gap between those two, bridge that level of show while also finding that community. Yeah.
Cool. I really respect that. And I love that level of intimacy that you're talking about there, because it definitely gives some insight into why Vibe Union events tend to have that in their DNA. Like I'm a big sucker for breaking the fourth wall as well, in terms of how do you engage with the audience? How do you make it that, I'll say this to pretty much every crowd, especially at Lyrebird, we're all part of the performance here. Every time your fork kind of slips on the plate, that's a part of the performance. And I think by being able to break down that barrier and have people feel comfortable, we're getting more people on stage and sharing in that. And then I love this idea of production value, like as a staunch advocate, even a sycophant of Kanye West, like, the man had 5 different bejeweled masks that he wore across the span of a single hour-and-a-half show.
Yeah.
Like this guy loves production. So do I. And I do like to go for, what is the sort of height of production that we can get. But let's kind of pare it all the way back. What is like the grandest or at least the most significant or memorable birthday party you remember under the age of 10? Like when you were under the age of 10. Let's because that was other than school plays, that was probably the only version of like a production being put on that we were really exposed to.
Well, you're asking me to remember things from a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, that's tough.
I remember jumping castles. I'm seeing streamers.
Channel.
Yeah,
channel
but I
it.
don't know any more
Right.
details than that. I think I was dressed as a pirate.
Yep.
I think I can only put together every childhood birthday party
All
I
into
ever
one.
went to
Yeah.
and put it into one.
Into one.
memory.
It's an amalgam.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, cool. But even that gives me some useful info. I'm going to feed off that in a sec. But Jason, what have you got for
I
me?
never had a jumping castle. I don't know. I remember once. I don't think this is really relevant, but it's just talking about birthday. It was my birthday, and I was waiting for my friends to get there, but for some reason my parents told them to get there at like 4 p.m. that day. And so I was just a little earlier in the day.
Oh,
and I'm
right,
like,
yeah.
why can't they come at like lunchtime and we can just chill? Because we're going to have a sleepover. And
I back those parents. As
little
time as possible for the kids to be home for the sleepover.
Yeah.
But
their side.
anyway, I'm an amazing son and I deserve everything when I ask. So I sat around all day just looking at the clock, going, it's my birthday and nothing's happening, and
Yeah.
these people are coming.
Yep.
And I'm like, and they're like, I was like, why couldn't they come earlier? Oh no, it's fine. So I mean, it's not. It's more of a negative memory, I guess. But that's the only thing I can really remember. Of birthdays.
Sure. Okay,
Under
great.
10, yeah.
You guys have given me all the ammo I need.
Yeah.
All right.
go.
So I do want to hit you with a birthday memory as well. I realize I do this where I'm asking a question where I have a really good answer, and then I'll ask the question, and then I get good answers anyway. But a birthday party I particularly remember was at McDonald's in Clifton Hill, right? It was my mate Angus's birthday. It was either Angus, no, it was Dean's birthday.
Dean, yeah.
And old mate Dean.
How old were
too.
you in this?
We're talking 5 or 6.
How the fuck do you remember that kind
I
of
remember
shit?
things. This is
That's-
just what my brain
I
does.
remember things.
How
right?
do you remember?
So, yeah, right. Good point. So it's a mixture of remembering and like having seen photos occasionally. My mum likes to bust out the photo albums, and there's things like that, and I'll look at the picture and be like, oh yeah, I remember that guy's name. He was Dean. So, it was a cool birthday party. There was a bright and colorful cake. It was at McDonald's, playpen, all that kind of jazz. And of course, I think a particularly memorable part about that was my show stealing moment when it came time for Dean to blow out the candles, and I was like, man, he's taking his sweet time with this. So I blew out the candles.
Oh my God.
And then I did it again, and then I did it again, and he was really upset, and I had to be pulled aside. And I had to be told, like, hey, man, even if he's struggling with it, like, it's his birthday. And I was like, come on, man, like, the show is failing. Like, the crowd is watching, and we're, it's like Guitar Hero. And, when you're doing really poorly and the crowd starts booing.
Yeah.
It was like, it felt like that to me. That's what was going on in my head. So I've always had this awareness of, like, what is the crowd dynamic here? I look at something like that and I go, like, that was the moment where this is it. This is the headline act, is the kid blowing out the birthday candles at his birthday party. We've all congregated in this room. I had to stop playing and eating my chips for this moment. Let's at least make it great.
Actually,
yes.
Speaking of stealing the show,
Yes,
birthday party,
steal it.
I just remembered. It's someone else's birthday. I think it was Dean's birthday party next year.
Sweet Dean.
No, I was at a park somewhere, and they're having
just quickly, just for parents who have kids called Dean for their 6th birthday party should put up signs called Sweet 16.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's great.
I'm done.
Yes.
Sorry to derail your story.
Whatever. That was funny though. No, yeah. I was at this party, and when I was a kid, I was a terror. Surprise, surprise.
What's changed?
And yeah, exactly. So I derailed the whole thing because at the time, still now, like, I'm not a huge fan of whipped cream, and all that kind of stuff. I was a bit lactose intolerant when I was a kid, and I hated sponge cake.
Okay.
And so cake that they brought out was a sponge cake.
Oof.
Filled with cream.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
I would have walked away. I wouldn't have touched it.
I didn't walk away. I chucked a massive tantrum.
Oh, man.
I mean, this is this is also undiagnosed autism and unable to regulate emotions. So I just go, I'm going to be angry because I'm not getting the cake for someone else's birthday. So yeah, to be told,
Wow.
it's not your, because I was waiting for the cake. I didn't care about anything else. I wanted cake. And then so the cake finally come out, and I just chucked a massive wobbly, and I think Mum had to sort of say, "It's not your birthday." I'm like, "I don't care. It's cake."
You would have been screaming what we're all thinking. I would have been. Sponge cake can fuck off.
I think it might have just been one of those old school woolly ones, with the cream and jam. I mean,
Oh, what a waste of time.
yeah, you got to get one of those mud cake ones. Yeah, at least.
That kid must be so depressed now.
Yeah, poor Dean.
Sweet Dean. Dean, if you're watching, by the way, man,
if there's any
let's
Deans,
reconnect, my dude.
If there's any other Deans, put in the comments.
Like, the Dean of my story was so upset. I imagine he also remembers, or very heavily drinks to forget. It was a traumatizing day for Dean.
Yeah, he can't light any candles ever again.
Yeah. People start giving him joke candles every year on his cake, so he just can't blow them out.
No, he gets
traumatic.
the candles with like a light in it, so it looks like a flame. So he's like, no one can blow these out. These are mine, or just sparklers because you can't blow them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So traumatizing kids. Cool.
So, coming back to production value, these birthday parties, and the reason that I wanted to ask this was because, in theory, we kind of sort of should have forgotten these things, right?
Yeah.
But there are bits and pieces that stand out. There are things that stick with us. In your case, it was the fun element. There was a bouncy castle. There were colors. There was like brightly colored cakes. What did you say? You said bouncy castle and something else. And then you said pirate costume.
Streamers,
right? So bright and sparkly, lots of color, lots of light, and energy and movement, right?
That sounds like Rhath to a T.
No, I was going to say, like, this is I'm remembering photos. I'm not remembering my time, which would have been me huddled in the corner going, there's too many people, I want to go home.
Sure, but a lot of that also does describe a Muse concert in terms of all that energy and color and light, lots of sound, and then costume. So you remember the pirate costume? Again, maybe that was from photos, but the bit that sticks with you when prompted and entirely unsolicited, we do not rehearse or prepare any of this stuff.
Can you tell?
Yeah, I was about to say, can you tell?
But I wanted to conjure that up because, like, what are the things that stick with us? It's like, oh, those people were wearing like cool costumes. Oh, those people like, there was a lot of color. There was a lot of light. There was this particular like novel element. The bit that like really stuck out for you as a negative, so for you to then detract away from this party, even if it was your own, is what bugged you: a lack of attendance, poor adherence to time. It didn't make sense what the timings were. And I guess like the reason I'm saying all this is like, let's start building a bank of like the things that work and don't work for gigs and for events. Because let's pull it a little bit forward. Like, what are then events as an adult that you've gone to, whether it's, a concert, whether it's a small, intimate, like, poetry reading. What was the first time that you went to a poetry reading as just a punter? What was that like for you, Jason?
I didn't go to. I haven't been to a lot. Obviously not recently. It was different. No, the first one I sort of went to was when I got here, and it was the worst thing. It was just run by the same people, and they wanted to keep it to their own thing.
Right.
I did perform, but I had to wait 3.5 hours to do a 2.5 minute poem.
Wow.
But then like before that, it was just like just tiring sitting there and just hearing people, and you say, okay, cool. The feature was some bush poet from the 80s who was clearly had alcohol dependency issues, and they were just rolling him out, and he was just like, I just want to just read my poems and have another drink, really.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's sort of, I mean, I've been to a couple others. I think it comes down to who's hosting and what and who's performing on stage, and sort of what they want to give back to the crowd. Because I was just thinking when you're talking about production value, when I was at Falls Festival in Marion Bay, the New Year's gig was going to be done by the Flaming Lips.
Right.
And because they took the better act, they brought it to Melbourne. And everyone's like, who the hell is Flaming Lips? Like, and everyone's like, oh, whatever. But it was amazing. They had got, those blow up balls you can stand in.
Yeah.
They had a ton of them.
Yeah.
People running like on the stage, just running into the crowd. So they were literally crowd surfing.
Yeah,
they had
nice.
a bunch of people on the side of the stage just in animal onesies, dancing. 20 seconds. Apparently, I was further back, but a friend of mine was right at the front, and the countdown was happening like 15 seconds or whatever, and then the sound just cut out, and then and so they just like, fuck it, they just kept playing, kept dancing, kept everything, and then everyone was like, okay, and then it came back on, they just went going, they're like, sorry about that, music cut out for some reason, but let's just keep it going. And it was just, everyone didn't care that they'd never heard of Flaming Lips before, never heard any of their songs. I can't remember any of their songs that I heard, but I remember random people in gyro balls, whatever, I don't know what they're called, and then a bunch of people in onesies dancing.
Amazing.
So, it was just off the show, production value.
So it's that level of commitment to fun, to just engaging the audience, giving them a spectacle, right? And that can take any number of forms. Thinking about a particularly inspiring gig for me, like one of the gigs that again sort of brought me out of my shell. Like I talk heavily about hip hop karaoke, and that really put me on stage as a rapper. But when I kind of hit this point where I wasn't working out for uni, wasn't working out for jobs and stuff, and I decided to move to Vietnam. I kind of just scoured like all the pages of the expats and the community and everything of like what's going on, what's happening. And there was a thing that was like calling all storytellers. We're putting on a story slam, Hanoi's very first story slam. And I was like, this seems cool. Dropped them a line and was like, look, I'm moving to Vietnam. I'm trying to like get out there more as a person and meet new people. This would be this sounds interesting, but I've never done anything like this before. What do I need to do? And he was like, the guy got back to me, Josh Barrett, a sweet dude, gorgeous human being, like really leading a part of that community in a great way. He gets back to me and said, that's actually great that you haven't done it before. We're trying to like do things a little bit differently. It's not like a poetry slam. It's not like, there's not really much rules. There's just a time limit. There's a theme. Get up and tell a story. And we don't want you to read from a script. So tell it based on how it feels. And the theme was fear because it was going to be held on Halloween. So there I am on my third night in Vietnam, Like, it's Halloween. People are all dressed up. I dressed up as Kanye, which was, of course, because he's scary.
So terrifying.
And yeah, and I went and told a story that was, part humorous and part interesting, and just being a part of this lineup of different people. There was another guy from Australia, but he was from Brisbane. There was an American lady. There was, people from all over the world, because they were all just congregated there, all sharing their stories, and, finding this commonality was really powerful. But again, it was like in this small, intimate bar, and the stage wasn't really the stage. It was just sort of a cleared out space at one corner, and it just felt really real and wholesome. And even that in and of itself, and just getting to meet some people off the back of it, like walking off stage and a couple of people being like, that was really cool. Where do you hang out in Hanoi? And I'm like, I don't. This is the spot. This is it. And getting to connect with people like that was pretty powerful. And then another time they had an act in between that just played like the XX covers, but on cello and vocals. And it was like stunning. It was so beautiful how they did that. And and just experiences like that were really, really powerful and helped me realize, like, these are not big, massive productions. These are not, this company charging this many dollars. Like, it was free entry and then optional donation for a charity, and all the money just goes straight to that charity. And just seeing that there was just pure joy in putting on this event, having these like prizes that like the bar would put on as like top story gets a bottle of wine or something like that, was really powerful for me. And so, yeah, I just wanted to really shout out that gig. And what's ended up sticking with me is that same sense of kind of breaking the barrier between artist and audience, and just realizing that whoever is on the stage, yeah, they're taking that moment, but that doesn't make them better or bigger or larger or anything like that than anyone else. So that was quite powerful for me. So have there been experiences like that? Like, I really like that Flaming Lips story. Like, Rai, what about for yourself? What have you experienced kind of in that vein, good or bad?
Yeah, I've got, I think, a comparison to make between two different gigs. Not one in, but yeah, regardless. So hanging out in Central Victoria when I was still doing like blues and like hard rock kind of stuff. And we started doing gigs at lots of local pubs at Bendigo and stuff like that. And the setup of the night would be obviously just there was maybe 2 or 3 bands on the lineup. They'd all get up, they'd do their thing, they'd get off stage, and there would be no MC'd. There'd be no real chatter either with the audience. It almost felt like they didn't really want to be there. It felt like there was no hand extended to the audience to try and bring them into the experience at all. And also being in country Victoria, there was always a bit of a dingy vibe to these pubs. And then to go, however, also there's very few people in the room. I think that's the main thing, is that there's a band on stage and there's like maybe 10 people in the audience. And at that point, it's like you can't not interact with these people. They are the only ones there, and you need to make this a more intimate setting. And so to take this to a very, very different experience, as I went to this is probably one of the most important experiences of my life as a performer, because it was the first time I ever rapped to anyone in my life. Outside of, I think, maybe my girlfriend at the time had maybe heard me, but I had tried to not show her as much as possible. This is definitely the first time I ever did it live. And I went to Afro Hub, which was a community hub for the African community in the Brunswick area. And they had just an open stage, open mic night, maybe once a month or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I went to one of these, and there was like 10 people there, maybe like 15 people there. And we were the only 2 white people there. And they immediately drew attention to it, which completely put me at ease, funnily enough. They actually, the first question I got once we were into the room, we got greeted by the people at the door, but the first question I got was like, how does it feel to be the minority here tonight? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's weird, but it's kind of, it's interesting, and it's an experience for tonight. And once we kind of broke down these there was no real barrier.
Yeah.
And so any perceived barrier that you could have walked in with was immediately broken down by just addressing the fact that, like, look at these, and as white as they come as well, like coming into this space. And so we're sitting down, and it just basically feels like an open floor. There is an MC, a comedian, but he's just kind of chilling out, and then just like points to us and say, "What do you guys do?" And my girlfriend at the time said, like, "Oh, I play cello," and I said, "I'm a rapper," and they, excellent, you're up. I had no intention of getting up.
Yeah,
they just
wow.
like, well, if you say that you're a rapper, then you have to rap right now in front of us.
Prove it.
Oh
Yeah.
God, all right. And so I found the beats on my phone and I did it, and they were just so supportive and so excited that I just did it. And that was the moment. That was a real important moment, and solidified in my brain that, like, these kind of experiences, I love doing the show.
Yeah.
I love the production value. I love going that extra mile. But I've been to gigs where there's a wall between me and the audience, or rather, me as the audience between me and the performer.
Yeah.
And some of those shows are incredible. Like the Muse show, I remember particular sites. I don't remember anything about what they did. I remember things about the set. Same with Green Day. I remember seeing some cool set pieces and a bit of fire and stuff like that. But in terms of what they did, nothing really in particular.
Yeah.
I've seen so many gigs like that. But that gig where there was 10 people I didn't know in this small little community center, and we just, that was locked into my brain as like one of the most important moments of my life so far, of like what performance is capable of, is bridging these gaps between a bunch of people who have no connection to each other outside of that room. It's really cool. Yeah,
Cool. By the way, would you like a date?
I will after I'm gonna
Easy done. Yeah, part of my quick absence was just breaking my fast, eating for the first time today. It was great. I'm very grateful for the fact that I do get to eat, that it gets to be a choice on most days. All right, so I guess coming a little bit to a close, thinking about the kinds of gigs that we've had, the experiences that we've had at them, and what has stuck with us. I guess, like, what are the things that, for anyone wanting to put on a gig out there, if you're wanting to plan a gig, put something on for the people, what would you guys recommend they need to incorporate?
From my experience now with like the Vibe and stuff, is I have to always reference that because that's the majority of gigs I've been to over the last 6 months.
You're also contractually obligated to not mention any other
Okay,
gigs
cool.
here.
There's another group called Union Vibes. But I think having that, like an open mic at the end kind of thing, was something
Huge.
that people were. We did it. Went to the what was the market called?
Seed of Life.
Yep. And we opened it up for so just a boom bap beat, and some random middle-aged man came up and did whatever he did.
Old white man, old dirty bastard style stuff. It was
and he just went up there and just was in his own element. And then we had a couple other had a lady come up. She just sort of sang something.
Word up, Christina. That was great.
So yeah, it's sort of a if anyone putting on gigs, you kind of want to have that. Like I said before, you want to have that environment where it's we need you, you don't need us.
Yes.
Nice.
Otherwise,
Brilliant.
it's just going to be, oh well, I went there, but there was just people there, and then they took our money, and then we left.
Actually, okay, I want to make a point about this because coming from and this isn't all garage rock bands, it's not all punk bands, it's not like anything like that, but I think the culture is a bit different. I mean, you still find it in hip hop as well, but like, no, yeah, I guess because I'm just interacting with you guys primarily at the moment, so I'm so on the other side of this now. But the attitude of like, oh, I've done the work and I'm the artist, so I'm here on stage to perform, and you better fucking lock your eyes in and pay attention. And then when no crowd shows up and it's a slow turnout, and you just keep thinking like, why am I a rock star yet? It's like, that's probably it. I think 98% of the time the audience is more interested in the performer than the actual art itself. So you can, unless you're like phenomenally good, and you should aim to be phenomenally good, because when you combine the two, then will be a rock star. I don't think there's really much stopping you at that point. But the actual the experience goes. I think the experience is like the music is almost like 20% for me, and then every other aspect, every other part of it is the real experience and the stuff that solidifies in my brain. I don't remember what tracks I did that night at that community center. I don't remember the jokes told by the MC. I don't remember the names of anyone who I met that night. I just remember this feeling in the room of like, I am with these people right now, right here. And I think opening the stage up with the open mic, like what you're talking about, is so powerful, because it means like, oh, we've done what we can do, but we really want to see what you can do, because we're on the same level here. Another one is emceeing properly, emceeing to tell the crowd what's happening, to encourage the crowd to get involved, to just make them feel relaxed. Make sure you're also getting feedback from them, because like it's not just guiding them, but finding out what they want, where they're heading next, and complementing that with groundwork. Be on the ground in between sets. Be on the ground at the start of a show, talking to people. It's so funny that I'm talking about all this because I don't do it, because I'm the socially awkward motherfucker who runs the sound. But thank God for Emkew and Dilly Dave. And you guys are in the crowd, talking to people, hitting up their Instagrams, liking, commenting, greeting them at the door, saying goodbye to them when they leave. That was such a nice moment last night at Talking Blue. There's a group of people leaving, and Beverly, who's one of the poets who comes through at Talking Blue all the time, and she said goodbye quite loudly, and we all turned and said goodbye, waved to them as they left the door. And I was like, that's, out of everything last night besides your poem, because that was like next fucking level, that was my standout moment. That moment of them walking out the door and the entire audience going, see you later, we can't wait to see you next time. I was like, that's everything that is everything we're all about.
I can safely say I've never seen that at a poetry thing.
Yeah.
People leaving and everyone, I mean, and everyone just going, see you next week, bye. And everyone going, yeah, we will.
Those are small things. It's small things to do that, to say goodbye, to say hello, to just talk to people in the audience, to MC properly on stage. Small things, but just makes memorable nights. Unbelievable.
Nice.
Well, because I think everyone wants to leave a gig going, I'm glad, like if it's a paid gig, like I got something for my money. I remember seeing this comedian Bill Bailey. He came to Hobart. Yeah. And obviously comedians have a set, just like anyone has a set. But he went up Mount Wellington and saw a photo or something. So he incorporated local Tassie Hobart stuff into it. He had a segment there. So I'm assuming even when he's writing it, he goes, add local stuff here.
Yeah.
But he went up. I remember this from the set. He went up. It was a photo, and the aspect was really weird. So one woman standing up there looked massive because she was a lot closer to the camera, and so he was like, just making a joke of how she's a giant and there's little. And I remember that, and I was like, well, yeah, he took an extra effort to incorporate local stuff, which I think is sort of. It's the same kind of thing as an open mic and MCing properly, having everyone.
I think comedians talk about this a lot more because I think music, you have a set and you can kind of do the same set every night. And obviously there are comedians who do this. And not being a comedian myself, I can't really speak on it, but just like listening to lots of interviews with comedians talking about it, like it seems to be the fact that you have to win over that crowd every single time. You have to earn every single laugh. Yep. If you are a huge name and you go up on stage and if you don't make them laugh, like you've just fallen over, you've failed. But like, I think to bomb as a musician is a lot harder. Yeah, it's a lot harder. You can play. If you can just, especially, kind of, with hip hop especially, like if you've got backing track and stuff like that, you can just like,
play on.
You know what, I'm just gonna hype it, and everyone's like, well, we came here for the hype, so we're into it still. But if you bomb as a comedian, like, you got to work every single second on stage. And I think that's really important. And so I've heard them talk a lot more about that, about like you have to make a connection to them. So find out their town, find out their weird things, like this little town called Castlemaine. Why do people think there's a puma roaming around? There was definitely a puma. I know every small town has a big cat story, but yeah, ours was a puma. And
amazing.
Yeah, I remember like some comedians would come through, bigger names like Lena Woodley. I remember came through at one point. And did they? No, I don't think so. I think I made that up. I saw somebody.
You could have said anyone. And we were like,
I know,
okay,
right?
cool.
Some big Australian name came through. And I remember them talking about the Puma. And I was like, dumb Puma. And that's all. Now I'm on their side. Now they've got me. That's all it took.
Nice. What about you, Juice? You've been sitting here silently watching. What can you tell the people at home about putting on a gig that they need to do? What does every gig need to have to be a success in your eyes?
I really think every gig needs to have that element of surprise. Like, not so much an organized gig where people know the date, the venue, before maybe like just announce you're going to have a secret location. And then on the day that it's happening, after people have expressed their interest in coming, you just let them know the location it's going to be at, and you never have it at the same location. I think if artists do that every once in a while, have a pop-up show here and there, showcase their new singles and stuff, I think that'd be really cool. It'd be really important because, it'd give people a different flavor. They're not thinking about buying a ticket. They're just the people who are lucky enough to see a post about an upcoming pop-up show and got a chance to get an invite to it. So I think that'd be really cool.
Interesting.
Great contribution from Juice, a.k.a. the element of surprise. That's actually really kick-ass, man. You not only giving it to you was a surprise, but that was a great thing. So watch out for the next Vibe Union pop-up surprise show. The date is a secret. The venue is a secret. The lineup is a secret.
To all of us, right?
But hit the like button, hit the subscribe button to get all the details and be the first in the know. Share it with 5 friends and we'll give you a date. All right, so I guess I wanted to kind of bring things home a little bit around, especially the emceeing thing and sort of bringing community together, breaking down that barrier and having that closeness with people. And I think the word here, like as much as it is overplayed, the word is actually inclusivity or inclusion. And it has a lot to do with either you as a personality or your act as a personality having the space to do it. So some of the acts that you're talking about where, they're a 2-piece band or really like size doesn't matter, but they feel like they're established. We have every detail from top to bottom sorted. There is no more room in this set. Like if people feel that, like you were saying before, if people have paid their money, they want to know that they got what they came for. I feel like the inverse is true when it's free. When it's a free gig, I actually think people want to know that they made a mark on what they went and saw for free.
That's a good point, actually, yeah.
If you go and see a busker, part of the appeal of putting money in that busker's hat, like, yeah, cool, I got some good music, you're great. But actually part of what compels us to put money in that hat is like, I made a difference to this guy's thing today. I helped this person. I helped them grow or whatever it is. So when it's a free gig, and that's more or less what we're doing, and what I'm sure a lot of you are doing as well, is if you're going to have a free event, find a way to make everyone feel like they contributed, because that's what actually builds the community. That's what builds that collaborative nature. And more importantly, like, will help endear you. That's how you're going to have fans. That's how you're going to have people that want to keep rocking up. We have people coming to our shows, again, like Saskia and Ash, who were kind of our first, like, came to one show and decided to stick with us since. Ash actually contributed to our set at Landback Fest because I was running around like a madman during Chaos and just poking the microphone in people's faces for break off, Chaos, all I see is Chaos, break off. I put that mic in front of Ash and Ash said, break off. And it was like perhaps that moment or among many, but it was that feeling that like, cool, we gave something, like we're a part of this now. And to do that is not easy. Like, it's not just something, because we see this and we've I feel like we've criticized to high heaven the people who are just like, when I say hip, you say hop, hip, hop. Hip.
No.
And it's exactly. And you get a whole bunch of that happening.
That.
And it's not a lot of fun. It's not a lot of fun as a spectator unless you can sense that the performance has the space for it. Are they doing it and are they outward, right? And as I'm saying this to you in the camera, I'm opening myself up. You need to feel like there is that space as an audience member for you to want to contribute to help fill it. If it's just someone going very, not making any eye contact, just saying the words, when I say hip, you say hop, the holding the microphone out is the least that person can do, but the audience doesn't feel that connection. They don't feel like that space is there. So it is very much then about the bigness of one's personality. And an MC, a good, powerful MC that's able to show that they have space in their own personality and in their own being to incorporate more. That is an MC that's going to guide your event well. That is a host that's going to do it well. I've seen hosts at events in Melbourne that literally would be like, all right, our next act is such and such. Come on up, introduce yourself. Like, damn, that MC barely has space for themselves, let alone the next act who is their collaborator for this show. So I think, kind of to sum up everything we've talked about today, we've mentioned how the production value needs to be there to make it memorable. Do the novel things. Do things that are exciting, that are next level, that take us out of the ordinary. We don't walk down the street and see jumping castles. So if you're going to have a jumping castle, go ahead and do it.
It depends what you're on.
Unless you're like out at Port Melbourne on the right day of the year, like you're not going to see people in pirate costumes. You're not going to see people in like steampunk outfits and things on the right days. I think that's Jake trying to get in. So really up that production value and make sure you have it. And then the last sort of big feature is the inclusion. Are you actually including people into your gig? Because if it's a free gig especially, there's not really much else you can get from people. But if you can make it known that you want their contributions, that the event is better and stronger for people's contribution and inclusion, then people are going to be more willing to give that up and make it be a good time. Jason, closing thoughts?
Talking about production value is do it to the best of your ability, what you can afford, what you can manage. Because I think, you need good production value. Well, I'm not going to put anything on because I don't have the lights. I'm like, you do the best.
Dude,
I mean, I've said it before. The best I could do recording during lockdown was a DSLR camera with a $60 mic. Sitting on my bed with a big purple blanket over me. That was the best I could do recording because I couldn't go anywhere. I mean, it wasn't perfect, and you get such better sound quality recording at a proper booth in a studio. But so production value, the best of your ability, I think is important because you can just be like, this is what I put as much as effort I could into this. And I think that shows as well. And that's
absolutely.
that inclusivity as well, I think. So.
No, really good point. Like, for example, when we play at Lyrebird Lounge, we have tinsel, pink, gold and pink behind us. That's $6 worth of tinsel curtains, and it immediately makes a difference. So that's the ticket. Thank you, Juice, for checking out whether or not we had hit record on this. That's a good point. So yeah, I think that just about wraps us up. Thank you so much once again for paying attention, for sticking with us, for tuning in. Hopefully you got some insights. If you want to drop below your tips for events, shows, gigs that you have really enjoyed and particular standout elements that you think make a gig a true success, we'd love to hear about that from you. So yeah, otherwise, that's it for today. I've been Emkew. We got Rhath. We got Jason. We got Juice. Peace out.
See ya.